Hey guys, Ron here, and I don't talk about it too often, but I'm a huge fan of Pokémon route, town, and dungeon designs. Whenever I play a Pokémon game, I try to immerse myself by exploring every corner of the game's map. I even try to play the games a little less than the average Poketuber because I do enjoy forgetting and then re-experiencing the layout of these locations when I replay. I think Pokémon maps are underrated, at least within the franchise, so I wanted to count down the locations I think are the best from each region, simply based on how entertaining they are. If it's a town, what fun facilities does it offer? Or how unique is its layout or visual gimmick? If it's a route, how dynamic or diverse is it? And if it's a dungeon like a cave or tower, how challenging and innovative is the experience? Music may be a tiny factor, but never a deciding one, at least for this video. I'm a huge Pokémon music fan, so I decided that if music was a factor, the list would be completely different, and I wanted to focus on the locations themselves. Plot significance also isn't too big of a factor. Just because Game Freak decided for a cutscene or story element to happen inside a town or route, that doesn't make the literal location any more fun if you strip that plot point away. And of course, ranking the top 10 or 20 locations of all 8 regions would take hours, so this will be split into 3 parts, with Kanto, Johto, and Hoenn in this video. But since it does take a lot of time to make a video like this, part 2 won't come out unless this video does well, so make sure to leave a like, share the video, and even subscribe to let me know you enjoyed this video enough to warrant a video on the next 3 regions. And believe me, those regions have some amazing locations, so I need a reason to make part 2. But let's begin with Kanto. We always begin with Kanto, which is unfortunate, because naturally it has the least interesting locations, but I'm confident that the following 10 are still entertaining and iconic. Number 10. The SS Anne. This luxury cruise liner is technically the most unique dungeon in the game, since it's not just some building or cave. It's fun leisurely battling through a gauntlet of trainers and your rival, checking out the deck and completing the necessary quests to get cut. It's nothing crazy, but still more interesting than the average route. A nice change of pace. Number 9. Route 26. It's one of the 2 locations in Kanto that wasn't included in Generation 1. This route that connects to the Pokémon League is simply more dynamic and interesting than all the relatively boring and flat routes that mainland Kanto offers. You'll notice how I love well-designed routes, and this is just the first in the video, baby. It's got some challenging trainers as well. Number 8. Cerulean Cave, a cave with a variety of high-leveled Pokémon and a gorgeous aesthetic. Sign me up! Honestly, the entire look of this cave in later gens is what places it here. It's a pretty maze, all leading to the strongest and most entertaining Pokémon in the game, Mewtwo. A worthy location for the best reward you can find. Number 7. The Pokémon Mansion. This is actually an underrated dungeon with fun mechanics like the switches to open doors, cool characters like burglars and scientists to battle, as well as journal entries and abandoned cloning pods that outline the creation of Mewtwo. It's a well-executed way to foreshadow the encounter at Cerulean Cave without clunky exposition. Number 6. Seafoam Islands. This is my personal favorite dungeon in Kanto. I'm a fan of the look that ice caves give off. Not only does it have rare items, strong Pokemon, and many floors to explore, but also contains my favorite HM puzzle, strength boulders that you'll need to correctly move and drop in order to block the flow of currents, all leading to Articuno, one of the most impressive ways to acquire a legendary Pokemon. Number 5. Route 27. The route that connects Kanto to Johto is the best route in the region. I'm a sucker for routes that are divided into so many different traversable environments. You have water to surf and Tojo Falls, grass and tough trainers, bridges and cliffside platforms. Oh, do I love me a route with a cliffside you can go up and down. Coupled with the music, it's the most adventurous I ever feel walking through Kanto. Number 4. The Safari Zone. Technically the biggest open area in Kanto. It has a pretty fun layout, at least for Kanto, and the literal rarest and toughest to catch Pokemon around. The timing element turns an entire location into a fun game you'll play over and over again too. Number 3. Lavender Town. One of the few towns in Pokemon that feels like a character itself. I don't need to tell you how the music elevates the already eerie air that Lavender Town exudes. It's exhilarating. This entry also includes the Pokemon Tower, a decent dungeon with an unforgettable aura and satisfying story in Let's Go Pikachu. Number 2. Saffron City. Now it's time for a big boy city. For half of the game, this place is blocked off, so when you finally enter, you're hyped to take on both gyms and take down Team Rocket at Silphco, the most intense dungeon in the game. It's a no-nonsense town with a lot of relevance both in plot and gameplay. Not to mention, Sabrina's gym is the best looking in Let's Go. Now there's only one big honorable mention in Kanto, the Sevi Islands. Honestly, this would be number 1 if I didn't care about the rules, but this location is technically not even part of Kanto, and isn't one location. It's a collection of islands with towns, routes, dungeons, and even a battle facility. It would be unfair if other locations had to compete. It's an archipelago that feels unlike anywhere else in Kanto. After all, its locations were designed 2 generations after all the other locations in Kanto, so they look more dynamic, and it's personally one of my favorite locations in all of Pokemon. But if you want a more fair honorable mention, the Kanto Power Plant is an incredibly optional and atmospheric location full of valuable items, exclusive Pokemon, and even a legendary bird. It's the kind of place modern Pokemon games are unfortunately missing. But number 1 is Celadon City. It's the leisure capital of Kanto, and considering it's literally the entertainment center of the region, it's no surprise fans find it the most fun to play in. And that's the criteria we're prioritizing the most today. The vibe of this place is so light and easygoing. You have a pretty gym, useful department store, game corner, Team Rocket hideout, and more. In Pokemon games where the gambling is still functional, you'll be coming back to Celadon the most out of any place in Kanto. Time for Johto. While not as diverse as the gens immediately after, it is more interesting than Kanto in every way. Number 10. Ruins of Alph. While the purpose of the place isn't as exciting as the other locations here, aesthetically and atmospherically, it's better than any location we've mentioned so far. It's one of the most intriguing places in Johto, and if you just so happen to have an Arceus, you'll find a pretty epic surprise waiting for you. So at worst, it's a funky looking route with some neat Pokemon and art, and at best, it'll take you to a place where you can see God create beings of time, space, and antimatter. Number 9. Route 45. Actually the only route that made the list. It's no secret that the routes of Kanto and Johto aren't the most impressive, but I gotta admit, I constantly remember this one below Blackthorn, specifically in the remakes, where a river and bridge was added to split the route. It's packed with trainers and rare Pokemon, and you have to constantly fly back to Blackthorn and go down the route multiple times in order to fully experience every nook and cranny of this valley. It's way more interactive than the plain fields you just walk through in the rest of the region. Number 8. National Park. For a place that is literally just 2 wide patches of grass, it really does leave a mark. Like Lavender Town, it's one of the few places where the atmosphere that the music sets is part of the gimmick. You're here to stroll around, feel great, and catch some bugs. And to be fair, that exact vibe is what inspired Satoshi Tajiri to create Pokemon in the first place. It's a wildly successful location. If it was like 5 times bigger, it would be high on the list. Number 7. Violet City. One of the most well-executed first cities in any region. It's a nice taste of what the Johto region has to offer, with its traditional Japanese aesthetic. It's a good early hub with a lore-building dungeon, the Sprout Tower. How many early towns have a beautiful dungeon that you get to battle your way through? Number 6. Olivine City. It's basically an adult version of Violet City, an idyllic place, this time a coastal city with a lighthouse that acts as a fun dungeon with actual plot relevance. It's a sunny beach town which feels like both a vacation and a challenge. Number 5. Mount Mortar. This is the most underrated location in Johto. It's completely optional, but is super huge with the challenging maze to get through. You don't get to see locations like this in modern Pokemon games. There are a plethora of valuable items and a cameo from the former leader of the Saffron City Dojo, who gives you a Tyrogue when you defeat him. Number 4. Ice Path. Okay, this is an actually unique cave, home to unique Pokemon. It's the first natural dungeon in the franchise with a completely new aesthetic. In Crystal, it's finally blue, heightening the chilly feeling. I personally love ice sliding puzzles in Pokemon, and the music of Ice Path is one of my favorites in Johto. A truly interactive and immersive location I always look forward to. Number 3. Goldenrod City. This is the most jam-packed settlement in this entire video. It's one of the largest cities in the Pokemon world, and is only personally beaten by Castelia and Lumiose in my book, in terms of how many things there are to do and experience. The department store, gym, game corner, radio tower, magnet train, entire tunnel, and much, much more. It's impressive how much they were able to fit into this brilliant city of luxurious splendor. Number 2. Mount Silver. Probably the most diverse location in both Kanto and Johto, and home to some of the rarest Pokemon in the game. You have the exterior route, waterfall-laden caves, grassy and snowy mountainsides, and the hailing summit with the most iconic battle in the game. One of the most genius encounters Game Freak has ever coded. Also, Moltres is chilling here. There are a few honorable mentions that boost Johto's prestige though. The Lake of Rage is relatively overrated because you catch a shiny Gyarados there. It's a nice maze with some trainers, but it's no more incredible than the average route. Route 32 is way better than the Lake of Rage, probably the 11th spot on the list. It's one of my personal favorite early routes in any game. The layout is so dynamic and natural looking, the overpass that looms over the bridge, and the varied elevation makes this place super fun to stroll through. Route 47 is my personal favorite route in Johto. It's the remake exclusive route that leads to the Safari Zone, and showcases some pretty nifty waterfalls and bridges. But honestly, the music is 60% of the reason I'm in love with this route, and that's not enough to put it on the list. But number 1 is Ecruteak City, the most beautiful location in Johto, and arguably one of the most idyllic settlements in Pokémon. It's a large percentage of the reason fans look back at Johto so fondly. In the remakes, they successfully depicted Ecruteak as a traditional autumnal Japanese town full of history and modern flair. The Burn Tower is one of the most iconic tourist attractions in the franchise. It's the center of one of Pokemon's most famous myths, and the Bell Chime Trail and Bell Tower are locations I think about in my dreams. A fantastical town that fits in a fantastical world like Pokemon. Now Hoenn is when I think Game Freak ramped up the diversity of locations within regions. For that reason, it was tough to narrow down my favorite places to just 10, so... Number 15. Team Aqua and Magma Hideout. I think this location is incredibly underrated for its themed decor and layout in ORAS. The entrance is grand, the puzzles are as you expect from a villainous hideout, but unlike Galactic HQ in a game from 2021, ORAS's hideout has lore-expanding Easter eggs everywhere and such a unique aesthetic. It's not just some cave or building, it literally looks and feels like a hideout that the villains made their own, with banners, servers, heavy machinery, and personalized rooms. Number 14. Victory Road. This was the first Victory Road to feel like a challenge and have some variation in terrain, with bridges, surfing, and waterfalls in the original, and the beautiful final room in the remakes. Hoenn's Victory Road never felt underwhelming to me, unlike the previous one. It raised the bar. Number 13. Mount Pyre. I love the atmosphere of Mount Pyre, from the somber graves to the mystical peak full of fog and good music. This is simply a well-made dungeon and plot-relevant location. It's kind of flawless and fun to look around for any hidden items or a rare chime echo. It's so nice to see such a sacred place with its own identity. Number 12. Route 110. One of the most entertaining routes in Pokemon. It has so many features, strong trainers, and new Pokemon to encounter. If the music didn't already excite you, the Trick House will give you a good challenge. The cycling road may aid you, New Mauville may mystify you, and Mayor Brendan may defeat you. It's an eventful location, a near-perfect route. Number 11. Route 113. Now it may not have as many traits as Route 110, but it makes up for it in style. The falling ash, sooty grass, unique Pokemon, and unforgettable music makes this route iconic. The Ninjas and Umbrella Girls are classic trainer classes because of this route. I always look forward to coming here when I replay through Hoenn. Number 10. Route 111. I honestly underrate this route myself because I constantly forget that it's technically huge. It's not just a desert, the north and south segments are quality routes on their own, with the Windstrait family, cool trainers, and fantastic secret base spots. But the desert was revolutionary for its time, not to mention Mirage Tower and Trainer Hill in Pokemon Emerald. It's crazy how ambitious this route is. It's even bigger than a wild area section in Gen 8. Number 9. Meteor Falls. Till this day, Meteor Falls, especially in ORAS, is one of the most stunning locations in Pokemon. The stalagmites and stalactites, along with the puddles and waterfalls, are astonishingly immersive. It feels so ancient yet pristine, combined with a brush with the villains, otherworldly and rare Pokemon, unique trainers, and even a battle with Steven in Emerald. It's clear Hoenn isn't only aesthetically pleasing. Number 8. Slateport. This is such a well-developed port town. It feels so bright and cheerful, a good mix of industry and tourism, with the beach below it, the bustling market, eventful museum, shipyard, harbor, contest hall, and fan club. You'll be returning to the city more times than you'll realize. It's such a natural hub, another place that feels real. Number 7. See Mauville. We have lots of abandoned locations in Pokemon, but an abandoned ship with trainers to fight and locations to actually dive under and discover hidden chambers and lore about the ethics of infinity energy and the history of some of Hoenn's iconic characters is pretty epic. It's such a well-executed optional dungeon with a neat quest to acquire Spiritomb and Ho-Oh or Lugia. Number 6. Mauville City. ORAS's mall-like Mauville is probably the biggest overhaul of any settlement in a remake. It went from a relatively boring town to one of the most impressive cities in Pokemon. It takes an entire sitting for me to fully explore Mauville, with its various shops, apartments, and citizens. It's the true hub of Hoenn, and does a fantastic job linking north, south, east, and west Hoenn. Number 5. Sootopolis City. In my opinion, the most beautiful looking settlement in the game. I'll never forget discovering this relatively isolated town by going on a diving journey and chancing upon this ancient settlement. A town that's inside of an atoll, with the Cave of Origin at its heart, is such a fantastic idea, and whoever came up with modeling the aesthetic after Santorini, Greece, deserves a raise 20 years ago. It's without a doubt my favorite 8th gym city. Number 4. Fortree City. The most unique settlement in this video. An entire town made of tree houses. While it's not as packed with content as some other Hoenn cities, it makes up for it with the literal best gimmick. It perfectly exemplifies Hoenn's theme of coexistence with nature. It's a secluded hideaway that acts as a reward for making it through some of the densest routes in Hoenn. Speaking of which, Number 3. Route 120. This is the route most people associate with Hoenn. From the glorious music to the purifying rain, this puddle-filled area feels incredibly natural, not like a manufactured route. The reflection of the sky on the puddles and various nooks and crannies that you may forget to fully explore makes this one of the most iconic routes in all of Pokémon. Only a bit less inviting than Number 2. Route 119. This is my personal favorite route in all of Pokémon. It is the first location I came across in the franchise that felt like an actual location. It's this dense rainforest that you get to explore after finally crossing from West Hoenn, filled with trees, tall grass, secret bases, bridges, waterfalls, bike puzzles, the Weather Institute, and a river cutting right through it. This route is the ultimate playground for a Pokémon fan. I remember coming back to this route many times during my playthrough and discovering new corners I've never been to by surfing or biking across the river. I will never forget Route 119. But even the honorable mentions are pretty memorable. Both versions of Sky Pillar have their own charm, the original with its unstable floors and scary Pokémon, and the remake version with its fantastic architecture and lore. Lily Cove is one of my favorite cities in Pokémon. It's full of stuff to do and is an ideal tourist town. It's the place I'd want to live in, out of any location in Pokémon. The Hoenn Safari Zone in Emerald is, in my opinion, the best safari zone in the franchise. I don't really have to convince you. The layout and diversity of this area without utilizing any complicated gimmick is ideal to me. The Jagged Pass is undoubtedly fun to traverse and come back to with different bikes to easily access parts you couldn't before. And Route 114 is such a quality route, probably the most underrated one in Hoenn. It's so fun to bike over the craters in Ores. Same goes for Route 115 and its secret northern half. I'm a sucker for secret routes that you get to access after acquiring Surf. It's crazy how much enjoyment I get from optional locations that are only honorable mentions in my list. And the underwater in general is one of the most immersive and unique locations in all of Pokémon. But the number 1 location might be my favorite in the entire franchise. Number 1 is the Battle Frontier. The original Hoenn Battle Frontier is superior in my opinion. It feels like an actual amusement park with a secret cave and even various buildings full of other patrons. It's probably the location I've utilized the most in Pokémon Emerald too. It was honestly the most impressive and ambitious feature Game Freak ever added to a 3rd version. I salute the amount of time and effort I assume it took to create such a place. And it took time and effort to make this video, so consider leaving a like so I know to make part 2. Subscribe if you haven't, and let me know which places in Sinnoh, Unova, and Kalos need to be praised. Consider becoming a patron, or clicking the join button to get cool rewards like seeing videos days early and a huge discount on the t-shirts I made for you guys. Make sure to follow me on Twitter where you guys can help decide the placements of these locations too. Bye!